Live.
All right, we're live. Welcome to This Week in Lumber with Matt Beamer from Hampton Lumber Sales and myself, Ashley Buckholt, CRO. Everybody says, what is a CRO? That's a Chief Revenue Officer. So I'm kind of in charge of making sure the money comes in and goes out correctly. Um, I love the title. Some people don't, but it is what it is. So, Matt, what Greg is out doing a little bit chasing a little white ball around today.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so it's just you and I. So
We should be doing that too, based on what the futures board is doing.
well, I'll tell you what's crazy. So it's funny. I just got a call from a user today saying, "Hey, just a few minutes ago before I got the call, can you? This is a retail guy, great guy. Can you show me how to sell some OSB? I need to sell some stuff. I'm a little heavy."
Yeah.
And we have a lot of OSB listed on our platform today. If you can see, kind of, let me show you if I can show this. We have a bunch of OSB listed today. If I put in Chicago, some of it in the 600 area and 4x10 and 700 and 638. I'm
Right.
hearing some secondaries in the big trading houses are offering out like board on cars for 3 or 4 weeks or 3 weeks or sooner for mid 400s. I've heard that from a few people already. So that kind of OSB hung there, and it's kind of like down right now. And
Yeah.
the crazy thing was, plywood was a precursor to that. It never happens, but plywood was trading well below OSB for almost 3 or 4 weeks.
So you just saw really in the last 2 months, you've just seen the unraveling of record high markets and how they go back to historical norms eventually, right? So
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, let me turn this off real quick. I'll take off the live market here. There we go. So it's interesting how things are happening right now. And with Greg being out, I like just kind of free-forming this one a little bit, talking. So everybody that's signing in, Materials Exchange, we're the only digital B2B e-commerce platform for the building materials industry where you can buy and sell lumber, OSB, and plywood in a real-time live market. So I was looking at what you sent over last night, and it's funny. It was perfect. You said, let's talk about basis, right?
right.
When the general public hears about basis, they're thinking about basis points on bonds and all that. They don't understand it's as simple as buying what's cheap and selling what's expensive. At one point
Right.
a few weeks ago, you could have bought 2x4s for around $450 and sold the board if you would have timed it just right in a couple of days for $600 or $650.
Right.
So what that just means is if you can sell that cash for the real cash price, and you're counting on convergence where cash and futures come together, you can take in that full amount of that basis difference. Now that's when the basis is cash is cheaper than futures, right? When the basis switches, that's when a lot more forward pricing happens, right? When the
That's just
futures are cheaper than cash, but it's
it's
still
just
basis.
it's basis in reverse. You're just using the forward selling price, the futures price, as your discounted price, and then you sell that, and then later on you buy the cash, right? So that's the difference between. But basis is really just the difference in dollars between the actual commodity and then the speculative price in the future of it. So
Yeah.
if today the price of cash is 500, we'll just use a round number, 500, and you can sell the board at 600, you have $100 basis trade right there.
Which historically,
Yeah.
when you're doing items with that much like to like, 2x4 to 2x4, it doesn't get any better than that generally.
Right. I mean, 100 is a lot. 50
Yeah.
50 is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, 30 guys have made, I bet you did a lot of $30 and $40 basis trades in your career back in the olden days, So, we're in a strange, it's been this way for a while. Even back at the beginning of the market when it started to fall, there was still premiums in the board. So we've consistently had premiums in the board to sell into. And if you've been disciplined in your hedging strategy, then you can kind of run your business with at least a little bit of insurance, I guess is how I look at it.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I think, and Greg Riley had a good point to this, why did the basis get out so far? Well, when we're just looking at a snapshot in time, it's real easy to say, oh, that's a wide basis today. But when you look at where we just came from, people have fatigue, hedging
Right.
fatigue, right? Your margins are so high. You've just made and lost a bunch of money because of all this volatility. So yeah, today it looks good, but finally, Riley and I were talking this week, like 2 weeks, a week ago. This basis is great. What's going to happen? Well, what happened was the board started coming back in, right?
Right. The board's coming back down and cash has come up a little bit in the
Yeah,
last
for sure.
3 weeks. And so you've already seen some kind of a convergence early, I guess. But the biggest issue with lumber and futures, specifically futures, is that because the open interest is so low, it doesn't really reflect the real picture. I mean, your platform probably reflects more of the real picture than the Chicago Mercantile Exchange does for lumber. You have like 22 to 2,400 open interest in an industry that ships 60 billion board feet of lumber around the country.
Man, dude, that's a great point, Matt. I think
it's ripe for false moves. You can get really big moves down, you can get really big moves up, and the reason why is you just don't have enough resistance in there. There's only a handful of companies and traders that are really actively trading that market on a day-to-day basis. Just compare it to pork bellies or cattle futures or oil futures. I mean, the volume we're trading on futures and lumber is not reflective of the size of the industry.
I think if you look at how many futures are trading, the open interest is about 2,000, and open interest is simply one long and one short, right?
Right.
And also the CME reflects a fiber base up in the Pacific Northwest. That's a diminishing fiber base. The real fiber base and growing one is in the Southeast U.S., right?
Right.
So you have a contract that has a diminishing fiber base. Yes, it has relationship to all the other ones in the basis, but when something has less of a correlation, it gets a little bit more sketchy to go against, right? So, so I think the contract probably trades over the year, maybe equivalent to the total production. But when you look at pork bellies and corn and all that, they trade 20x or more of the production, right? So it moves a lot more. It doesn't. It's got a lot more ins and outs, so to speak.
Then they've changed the limit structure too. It used to be $10 a day. You'd go to 15 or 20 once in a while, and now it's $42 a day, and it can be up to 63. Yeah. So not only do you have low liquidity, you have high volatility, which is the way the contract's designed at the moment. I'm not sure that's the way it should be designed in the future, but that is what it is. And so it gives us opportunities because we know these things. We can see a $100 basis, or we can see a $150 basis and take advantage of it. That's all you can do. I mean, if you want to speculate on futures, good luck. I'm not advocating that at all. But when the board changes your options for you and gives you clear cut, $50, $100, $150 trades that you can execute, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you at least try to take advantage of those advantages that you know of, right?
Yeah, and I think, Matt, the one of the real things you put is, Materials Exchange is now giving people the opportunity to look at lumber pricing real time, where before they had to call those 6 or 7 people that talk to the brother of the wife's first cousin's mother once removed that knows somebody in the field that saw some guy make or tail something, right?
Yeah.
Price generally tells you everything you need to know. And you can take all that noise out. So the closer you get to real-time pricing, the more you've internalized that value, less information you have to get away, right? So let's talk a little bit about mill curtailments.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna speed up this thing because this will be like an hour and a half long meeting. I'm gonna do like a lightning round here.
Go ahead, lightning. Because the crazy thing is, I've seen all these curtailments, but the price of lumber is actually falling.
Well, I mean, so you have mill curtailments. I think the mills have shown their hand. You have, Hampton took some mills down for a week, and we may take another mill down for a week. We didn't announce it, but we have done that. And I know Fraser announced something Friday late after trading. It came out on the Google Woodwire that they were shutting down 100 Mile, and Interfor has taken out some time off. Canfor's announced some time off. So basically, the way I look at Western Mills have sort of cried uncle at 400 to 450 mil is sort of where they've drawn the line in the sand. We have in the home center business, we're seeing an improvement now in the takeaway. Finally, for the last 6 or 8 weeks, we've been shipping less than what the contracts were allotted for, and now we're getting back to like a 1-to-1 basis. So that's a good sign. That means that the Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, other regional big box programs, retail outlets are starting to move some of that product that was sort of piling up on them. So we like that. That's a good trend. Greg alluded to that 2 weeks ago. He thought that would occur, and it is occurring. Fire hazards and then the overall value of the market on a 2-year scale. Well, if you look on a 2-year scale, we're at the low end of the 2-year scale right now in the $400 to $500 range, FOB mill for a wide range of products. The fire hazards are real. Now, I'm just going to speak for Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, the Western United States, Northern California. We haven't had a lick of rain here for 2 months. I bet the average temperature every day here in Portland is about 94, and everything's bone dry. Every time I drive around on a country road, I see a fire department with a sign outside that says fire department, fire hazard extreme. We can't log. We're not allowed to go in and pick up logs that have already been logged, but the forests have been shut down here. So, it's just in my mind, this is about a month early. We should not be this dry and this warm right now. It's just the beginning of August. I'm very fearful of fires for my own personal safety, but also for just the whole state of Oregon and all the other states in the West that are just crispy dry.
For sure.
BC's got a lot of problems up there, and Montana's getting a lot worse here. I keep hearing reports out of Montana that the fires are getting nastier there. I expect more of this, not less. I mean, I don't see any rain on the horizon. It's going to be 95 and sunny again today. So it's a real problem. And then going on to the main market participants, I think have, at least from what I'm seeing, are the distributors that are tiptoeing back in. They're not coming in full speed ahead, but they're definitely back in paying attention. The jobber guys, the apartment guys, the investors that want to finish their construction projects that they've had on the books all year, they're very eager to buy and lock in lumber prices for the rest of the year. I think it's a matter of time before the rest of the market comes back in. The retailers that are still working through expensive inventory, myself as a distributor, I still have some expensive inventory. I'm sure everybody in the industry has a little bit of expensive inventory to work through, and maybe a lot. I don't know. I mean, I would think that they would have at least whittled those piles down since early June. So I mean, I think those are all good trends. On the flip side, this is the time of year, like in September, October, November. That's generally speaking when your mills are the most productive.
Yeah.
The weather cools down, the fire dangers go away. In reality, the third quarter is your best production quarter for sawmills. And that logs are available. So yeah, you can still get logs. Logs haven't been like shut off. Now eventually, if we go another 45 days without being able to log, yeah, we're gonna eat into people's log decks, and there'll be some issues there, but that's not an issue right now. And I was talking to a real estate buddy of mine, and he said that the number of homes listed in Portland has gone from 2.5, or the number of buyers per listing in the Portland market has gone from 2.5 to 1 to 1.5 to 1. So that tells me that the existing homes that are out there that Greg talks about on a regular basis are now coming for sale in addition to new homes. So that's, again, high prices are attracting more supply. And so we're seeing that, right? If it's happening in Portland, my guess is it's probably happening everywhere else too.
Yeah, well, the housing's interesting, Matt, because I read a few statistics. Housing's still good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the frothy part, from what I read, it again, I'm just looking at some stats last night. The high price that people were asking is coming down a little bit. What they're getting over their ask price is starting to come down, and the amount of days on a market that things are on the market are coming down. And I think these crazy things, we were having brokers not have open houses and selling homes without people doing inspections. That's frothy.
Right.
When a real estate agent says you don't need to have or they were doing 1 hour in some markets, big frothy markets, 1 hour open houses that create this thing where everybody's got to come in and bid no matter what. I think that's what you're seeing, that frothy part come out of it, right? And there's some uncertainty. That's at least what I'm hearing.
I mean, I don't think we as a country want frothy markets. We're fighting inflation as a nation right now.
Right.
It's a real thing that's affecting you and me when we go to the store and we buy gas and we operate our lives. So do you really want to, if you want to change ownership of a house and move to a different state or a different city or a different neighborhood, do you really want to have to go through the process that I had to go through back in March and April, where you're
that's the whole
trying to find a house to buy?
That's the whole transfer cost nobody talks about. It's expensive to sell and buy when and move.
It's also stressful, period. Just to sell a house, get your house ready to sell, and then if you've got children, you've got to change their whole life for the first time. They've never not lived in this house, and all of a sudden, okay, hey, we're going to move somewhere else. So your entire life is changing. It's one of the top 3 most stressful events of your life. I think getting married, having babies, and selling and buying a new house are like your top 3 most stressful life experiences. So you really want to have like an auction market for homes, for housing? Nah. And you know who it hurts the most? It doesn't hurt you and me the most. We've had 30 years to save money and live our lives. It hurts our children, and it hurts their children. They're the ones that are going to be entering a market at the age of 23 going, I want to buy my first house, and the sticker price is $500,000. I started out, my first house cost $150,000, and that was 25 years ago. So
does it sound right? The new home sale, median home sale price of a new home is $364. Now, year over year, that's up 19%. I think, if I'm just pulling that statistic. I mean, that's a big move in there's not many of those. You can't find many $364,000 homes out there, right?
I don't know. I mean, if you're a builder, are you going to build a bunch of $350,000 homes?
You're going to build $1 million to a $3 million one because people have all their extra 401k money and all that. Here's an interesting thing that I saw, Matt, on the downside. I keep seeing on social media the same people pop up saying, hey, you should buy now because we're low again, because things should get better, because. And I always don't like that, because it means people are talking their position, right? They're long, and I get it. And you always hear this. You never hear at the top of the market that people should sell, right? You always hear when people should buy when you get down to something. But here's an interesting thing that somebody put over. My buddy from Illinois, I've been covered up with other stuff, so I haven't been dialed in. We are shipping trusses into Ohio from Illinois for a regional builder because the Ohio market is so behind on production. They dropped 30 houses on us, and they need them all in 2 weeks. We've never shipped more than 200 miles overnight. Now we're shipping 500 miles. Labor. Every market seems to have a different issue, but mostly surrounding pure capacity constraints. Yeah. So that comes back to housing is good, but when you want to ship something this big through a pipe this big, it's just hard to do it. Now, eventually, I think we'll get some of that stuff settled, and you've seen some of the engineered products, other things. But somebody said the other day, you want to build a house, you got to order your vinyl windows a month before you break the ground, or your windows, because you won't see them at all otherwise.
Yeah,
so that means, I guess that's a bullish thing, right? There's a lot of
I'm not down on lumber. I'm not down on construction. I'm not down on the United States. We are going through an unprecedented period of time that you and I would never have imagined in our lifetimes.
For sure.
If I'd have called you up 3 years ago and said, "Hey, Ashley, we're gonna sacrifice our civil liberties for a year and a half, and we're all going to be locked down and be wearing face masks for a year, and our children are not going to be able to go to school," you just laugh at me like, that'll never happen. That'll never happen, Matt.
I would think you had happened. Yeah, I'd say you had the tinfoil hat on if you said that.
Exactly, but it's happened, and it looks like it may be happening again. I just got a letter from, or not a letter, but an email from the state of Oregon saying that Kate Brown decided that all of our children need to be masked up again going back into school because of the Delta variant. So, hey, it is what it is, but here's where we are as a country. We have been locked down. We have been restricted. People have decided to move in mass. These were all results of the pandemic, right? And so so you have so much mobility in this country. People decided to stop renting. They don't want to live in an apartment. It's too crowded. They're okay. You're worried about getting sick. I
And
understand.
if you don't have to work in an urban environment anymore, why a lot of people are saying I don't have to work in a city center. So why should I have to wear all those other risks of living there if I don't have to work there anymore? I'm going to move farther out or work there as much, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are all things that were brought upon us by something that we didn't create. It just has happened in the world, and now people are reacting to it. And one of the reactions to it is that we've we've protected our citizenry with stimulus checks and unemployment, coverage, and even the PPP process and some of the grants that you can apply for if your business has been shut down. I'm well aware of this because the movie theater business has just been decimated by the pandemic, and I happen to be in the movie theater business, so I know a lot about the money that's been available to us as a theater company.
Yeah.
But that's also allowed people to stay at home and not work, and so there is a problem with unemployment all over the country. It's not just in Oregon or Illinois. It's everywhere. And so I
somebody
don't
just
really know how to answer that question. How do you get people to want to go back to work other than just pay them more,
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, somebody just asked, do you see Delta variant locking us down again? I don't. I think in the U.S. that this is my personal opinion. People are sick of being locked down, and at this point now, human beings and citizens are going to make that call, and not the government. That's just what I see, right?
I mean,
And
even
I think that's the pushback.
Even in super liberal Portland, nobody's requiring masks indoors, even though
Yeah, I mean,
the government says we should. So
I
think
walk around
people are
without
just
a mask
tired of
now.
it. Yeah, I mean, I would say 90% of the people walking around Portland right now are doing it exactly the same way as they were back in July and June.
Yeah,
They've had enough.
The group that I associate with, both sides of the political fence, I think at this point are like, hey, look at we don't have to discuss the vaccination part. We got away from lumber pricing a little bit here, but
this is causing reactions in the lumber business, right? This is one of the reasons why real estate got so good.
Right. I think people are. I think at this point, at least from the little pig farm I live in, and the area I live in, people are like, you know what? From my standpoint, I'm vaccinated. It's over with, and I'm going to start living my life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are kind of, I'll wear my mask on public transportation like I have to. Maybe pull down a little bit, but I'm ready to live my life and start moving forward because I'm willing to do that.
A year and a half to flatten the curve.
Yeah, exactly. So back to lumber. Let's run a little bit through some of the stuff. Spruce definitely 4-inch and 6-inch is up now. The eastern side of the market got back. Eastern mills got back last week, and I was talking to a few people. They were surprised or got back this week, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they had some stuff they wanted to move.
Sure.
So the good thing is there's stuff moving, right? And even OSB, it's moving. So spruce, you can see that 4-inch and 6-inch is it really. I think a lot of that's because these guys at these mills did a good job moving stuff out. They're continuing to try to build order file. Now, I will say this: from what I still think some of the market segment has a big pile of high-priced inventory they're still trying to deal with. And I think at first they thought the market would come back and help them. And like you and Greg always say, it is hard to average down high-priced inventory when you move at a velocity to the downside that we did. You can't physically do it. So I think people are now coming to the point of, damn it, I got to move through that and take some losses on some stuff, right? And we all do. We've all been through it. But I think there's still a fairly good. The guy on LinkedIn the other day, I looked at something. And he said I was in my local yard. He had a picture of it. My local real estate. We got talking real estate. Retail yard, Michigan said, "Here's our pile of lumber. We can't lower our prices until we sell this." And it was on LinkedIn.
That's pretty strange.
It is strange, but. And I did notice going to some of the big boxes, some of their prices of 2x4 8s were $7 last week. This week, and when I walked in, they're $3.50, right?
Yeah.
OSB went from $48 a sheet down to 27. It just all of a sudden went
Right.
right. So
What we need that though. I'm honestly, I mean, did you really want to spend $50 a sheet for OSB like
no,
for the
but
rest of your life?
I don't think human beings that go in and buy one or two sheets understand how the market works. So I see all these comments on YouTube. I wonder why these guys are pricier here. I wish some of them would come in and just listen to this show because we certainly help people, buying and selling stuff
Well,
sometimes.
the reason is simple. It's a commodity. The price fluctuates based on supply and demand. For the first half of 2021,
Chum
the
said it
supply wasn't
wasn't.
keeping up with demand.
Chum said it. Chum said it wasn't us. In Michigan.
Yeah, no, there might have been a miscommunication. Also, it could have just been some guy popping off in the lumber yard.
It could absolutely be.
That guy that drives a forklift or something like.
It's similar to the news story we saw 2 months ago. The conspiracy: some guy with a camera that never seen a lumber reload before took a picture of a lumber reload, saying there's a lot of lumber there. Well, there's a lot of lumber there.
We had true story in the Oregonian, which is the newspaper for the state and is centered in Portland. They published an article back in May,
I remember
that showed a picture of our sawmill with lumber piles all over the place and said, "There's no shortage of lumber." And you guys understand that every single stick in that pile is sold and waiting for a rail car to load it on. It's crazy. What people don't know, I guess. I can't fault them for not knowing, but here, let me tell you something. Lumber industry is a lot more complicated than just taking a picture of a stack of lumber next to a choo-choo train.
So have you ever tried to explain to somebody the lumber industry in half an hour that doesn't know anything about it?
Basically, I just tell them I'm a lumber trader and I buy and sell lumber, and I work for a sawmill, and then I just leave it at that, because if they start asking questions, I just say, it's just lumber business is just a big business. We just ship choo-choo trains of lumber all over the place. So if you see a car, with some Hampton paper on it going down the railroad tracks, you'll know that's what I do. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that. I try not to get into the nuts and bolts of it, because honestly, dude, I've been doing this for 28 years and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
It's too complicated.
By the time you learn something, a process, a technique, a trading way, looking at different things, by the time you get really good at it, it changes. And then there's some new method of investing, right? Like we all looked at this basis and all this for years and undervalued, overvalued. That's really hard to do, right? Like when you say buy 8-foot studs because they're undervalued, then you put them on the ground and they stay undervalued for a year and a half, right? There's a lot that's unknowable. But one thing I will say is we're coming from an all-time extreme high ever. Right. A move that no other commodity has really made like that, or very few. And now we're dealing with the other side of it. And it's hard. I feel for anybody sitting at the retail level that has to mitigate and navigate this and talk to their customers, because they're sitting there trying to have this conversation like we're having. Well, here's the lumber business, right? And it's a tough conversation because a lot of people are like, darn it, I want something cheaper, right?
Well, hey, you can just pick up the phone and buy something cheaper in this market environment, because mills have been listening for the last 8 weeks.
Yep, they have.
And we continue listening. They could go on your platform and buy stuff with the click of a button, like you buy your stuff from eBay.
And we've had a lot of that. We've had a lot of that. We've had a lot of bigger buyers that can buy truckload and carload that had the same 2 or 3 people they've bought from their whole life coming on. They first look at our prices. Then they use our prices to lean against their other person, and then they buy something off of ours. Or like the guy today, he's got extra OSB, retail yard, never had the opportunity to sell back into a market. He's going to now sell back into a market in materials exchange, go against the supply chain. He's never done that before. And to him, it's like, is it really that easy? I'm like, yes. So after this call, I'm going to get up and set him up to sell OSB on here.
Nothing like laissez-faire capitalism, right, Ashley?
Exactly. Adam Smith, man. All right, well, cool, Matt. We kind of talked about. We went right from lumber to the Delta variant. So,
are we talking about lockdowns again? I'll tell you what. If you actually care about the economic condition of this country, you're going to fight those lockdowns, because there's too many people that are just living off the government right now already. And we don't want more of that. We want the United States to go back to normal and people to have their lives back where they can just go about their business and take their own risks that they would always take anyhow. I mean, we get in airplanes, we get in cars, we walk down the street, we ride our bike around the neighborhood. Every day we take risks, and we need to remember that. Hey, we're Americans, and we're willing to take risks. This is what makes our country good.
That's right, and our Canadian friends up north too. We're all
Absolutely.
willing to take risks. So James Brecht had a good question here. A month ago, the plywood mills reported order files out to the end of September. Now they have none. Where did they go? I don't know much about plywood. Honestly, in my entire career, I haven't traded much plywood. I know that it's produced a lot less and a lot fewer people, and I can just tell you what I think my opinion is on it. I think these plywood mills also sell to big buyers, and they have an estimate of what these big buyers told them they want, and that goes into an order file. And all of a sudden, as Matt said, a lot of these big buyers have a minimum and a maximum. And all of a sudden, one day they call you on the phone and say, next month, we don't want any of our stuff or ship the minimum. That order file comes in immediately. And this happens on a regular basis, right? And I think mills do the best they can to control that. They're trying to cater to a big consumer. So they have to figure that into their order file. And when that order file comes in, when the consumer says, I have too much, I can't take it, it comes in. Is that, am I being too sophomoric on that matter? Or not?
No, I mean, no, you're right. I mean, you have these contract commitments that you rely on as a sawmill, and if they disappear for a month, well, your order file just collapsed by at least 3 weeks. So, and I don't know. I mean, maybe the guy at the plywood mill wasn't telling the whole truth. Also, that's also possible. I don't really know. I can't speak for another sawmill, but I don't think people usually lie about their order files. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I think they have a projected order file, and then they have a reality of what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'm just going to go with what you said. I don't trade enough plywood to be an expert on it, but hey, any sawmill in North America that thought that lumber prices were going to stay at $1,500 or $2,000 for the rest of the year, shame on you. You should have known better. This is the lumber business. It's a free commodity.
I'll at the risk of there was a guy called yesterday to talk to Mike because I was interviewed in a Fortune article, and he basically told Mike I'm an idiot. So, and my whole point was the reason why lumber yards, big yards, don't lower prices are because they don't have to until they have to, right? And that's just a pretty fair, basic statement. And I also know how things work. In an up market, these big buyers are taking their max and they're building somewhat of an inventory, even though that's not their game to build inventory, or they're pushing the inventory build back on you, the mill. And eventually when that market rolls over, when it takes 6 months to go up and 2 months to go down, when they quit buying, mills order files come in because the mills are like, what do you mean you're not going to take your normal commitment, right?
Right. Exactly.
And all of a sudden the order files come in, and next thing the price, they're trying to get out of that price as quick as they can. And the one way they get out of it is by not taking any more, right? So there's some strange dynamics that go on, but that's just the reality. What I know, I could be wrong on this, right?
Well, there's the old adage, never add to a losing position. So if you got stuck with a big pile of $1,500 lumber, it would be maybe a little foolish to just go out and just buy $750 lumber and try to average down without at least having sold some of that $1,500 lumber first, right?
Yeah.
You kind of have to deal with the immediate problem first. In this case, if you're a sawmill, it's the pile of inventory that you've got out back, or if you're a retail customer, it's this expensive wood that you've got in your yard. That needs to go out before you can now make new decisions, and that's just how I guess good business people operate.
Yeah.
Any other way you do it is really just fooling yourself with accounting and gimmicks, really.
But again, look at we're in the position we're at because we came from a position of an all-time high that came off quickly. We'll work through it, and I think the industry's working through it right now. I think a lot of mills have cleaned up a lot of things everywhere. I think the home center business will come back because it dropped down a little bit, but it'll start coming back. And I think home building is going well. We got a labor issue, some other constraints, some regional factors going on. But I mean, I can't see things not staying solid for a while and good. And like you said, that overall gives me a lot of hope and thinking that our consistent outtake and moving slowly up and to the right on all these charts is going to continue. Could be wrong on that.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I think that the dynamics for just a normal market are, I would welcome that. I don't really want to go through $1,000 swings for the rest of my career. I think I'd just retire early. If that was the way
I don't want to go through 2000. I don't want to go through 2006 through 2010 again either.
No,
Yeah.
we don't want that. So
No.
hey, it's a good thing that the real estate market isn't quite as
For sure.
frothy. And it's a good thing that lumber prices and OSB and plywood prices have deflated. We should be happy about that.
Okay, we like everybody in real estate and everywhere again now. We're good now.
All right, buddy.
All right, so anybody, thanks for coming on. Come to mxlumber.com. Call Matt Beamer at Hampton Lumber Sales. If you don't have his information, you can check me. He's got his social media on LinkedIn. And we'll look forward to tomorrow. Matt's on the program. Layman tomorrow. I see he's online here. We'll have a good show for you tomorrow and talk about Layman's Lumber Guide and look at some of his charts. And looking forward to it. Matt, thanks again. We went over a little bit, but thanks for taking your time.
No problem, buddy. Have a great day.
Yep. Bye.